Welcome back to the Joust About Careers podcast, where you can learn about careers from the people who are actually in the trenches every day. I'm your host, Brian Brock, and I want to see all people make good career and life decisions. These are the final highlights of this season, and they feature Lacey Simon, a licensed practical nurse at Blanchard Valley Medical Associates. The highlights focus on what an LPN does, the various levels of nursing, what Lacey did before becoming a nurse, what it was like to go back to school after a long time away from it, and the positives and negatives of a nursing career. If you like what you hear from Lacey and would like to learn more about her career journey, you can always watch the full interview. And if you find this podcast useful, please share it with someone else who could benefit from it. Enjoy the show, and I'll see you back here for new episodes in the fall.
I actually work with a bunch of different types. I'm actually a float, so I work all over Blanchard Valley Medical Associates. I work for family medicine. I work for cardiac, dermatologists, pulmonary, podiatrists. So when I get into work, I room them. I room their patients. And I go through like all of their medical stuff, like why they're there. And I pretty much set everything up for when the doctor comes in to see them. I feel like when you first start out, so like there are CNAs and STNAs, which a lot of people, they work in like nursing homes mostly. And then it can go up to an LPN, which is a licensed practical nurse. And then the next step ahead would be a registered nurse, which is an RN. And then if you go further, you become, oh man, now I can't, definitely just forgot that. A physician's assistant pretty much, which is it just like they work like right under a doctor. Okay. So the transition program is like an LPN can do pretty much almost anything an RN can, but they can't like pass certain meds. So like when we have IVs, like I can't start a medication through an IV, but I can keep a medication going. And an LPN, I feel like works more towards patient care, as an RN works more like what needs to happen in the future, if that makes sense. So certain schools offer transition programs, and so like when you go for your RN, it's about a 4-year. And then when you do LPN, it's about a year to 2 years. And so the first 2 years of your RN is pretty much what I do. So when I would go back in for my RN, I'd only have 2 more years of schooling and a couple more prereqs to do. And so once you get accepted in the program, you probably have about like a year, maybe a year and a half to 2 years of more schooling. I started at Whirlpool, and I was at Whirlpool for about 9.5 years here in Findlay. So they make dishwashers. It was pretty nice because both my parents worked there, so I knew it was good money. Like, you know, that's what provided me my life as I grew up. So it was really good. I mean, like they had like, I was like labor pool there. So like I learned all the jobs all over the factory, which was cool. But it was very repetitive. And that was really the only thing I didn't like. I love the people I worked with. It's not that I didn't like the jobs, but you know, there are jobs that you don't like there. So, I mean, you get stuck on things. And I think the factory life just became a little too repetitive for me. And I'm a very people person, and I like to care for people. So when it came down to it, I just knew that wasn't the job that I wanted to be at for the rest of my life. So obviously, since I was a little bit older, it was definitely me paying for all of my schooling. So, you know, I didn't have the option for my parents to help me pay or anything like that because, you know, I was mid-20s, later 20s when I started. So I kind of explored the schools around to see like, you know, best pricing, what was close to me. the first thing obviously I looked at in Findlay area was Owens, but their nursing program was actually out of Toledo. So I looked around, and Lima had a really good nursing program. It's Rhodes State College, which that's where I did end up going. Plus they have the transition program. I think Owens does have it now, but before, when I first started looking, they did not. Like I said, LPN program is about a 2-year program. It just depends on how much prereqs you have. Now, for me, it took me probably about 4.5 years, because I was paying out of pocket. So I started taking my prereqs first while I was working. So, I work a full 8-hour shift to get off work, study, and go to school. And so I take a couple classes at a time. And then once I hit my actual, like, where I had to get into my clinicals with my nursing classes, that's when I ended up quitting my job and going full time into my school. I would say probably about 75% of them were very young, straight out of school. My first semester of my LPN program, I was probably the second oldest person, and there was, I think, about 12 or 13 of us. But when I went into my second semester, we had a lot of people come in. Like, so those might have been people that had like either failed that certain semester, or if they failed out of the second year of an RN program, they could come into the LPN program and then do the transition program. So a lot of people opted to do that. So we grew to like about 40 people. And so when that happened, there was a lot more that were a little bit older, that were either already getting ready to transition, or, just trying to make their way up the chain. And it was kind of intimidating, honestly. But I may not look my age all the time, and my awesome personality makes me seem a little bit younger. So a lot of them thought I was in my early 20s, or like, so I mean, that was kind of like my camouflage in at first. They didn't know I was almost 30. So I mean, it was definitely difficult, for sure, because I didn't have everything they had. Like, they were fresh out of school. So when, we went into classes, like, they knew how to do things. And I mean, like, I remember being young and always making fun of my parents, like, oh, you can't work with computers and you can't do this on phones. And like, I mean, I'm very technology savvy, and no, I realized I was not when I got into school, because I had to relearn how to use Excel, something I hadn't done in 10 years, and how to search certain things and find things. I mean, it was definitely a challenge, but honestly, with being with all the younger kids, like, they helped so much. Like, I mean, once you make your friends and like your little like study cliques and stuff, like, I mean, they help you through everything, and they really didn't judge. I didn't have a lot of the kids were floored by how old I was in the first place. I love helping people in general. I'm a healer at heart. So I knew this is something that I like, medical field in general. I wanted to get into. I'm a fixer. So, I want to fix people all the time and like help them be the best that they can be. And becoming a nurse, you have a lot of bedside, which just typically means that, like, you work with people all day long. You get to know people, your regulars that come in, and you learn their stories, and it's very interesting. It's just, I mean, it's beautiful, honestly. Like, working with people every day is what I love to do. So I feel like it's the little moments when people give you that gratification. I mean, I have some patients that come in and, they specifically ask for me, or, specifically ask where I'm at so they can come say hi. And, just when you give a person like the relief that they need, and like you can communicate with them and make them feel better just in like talking to them, because I do work with a lot of older people, I would say. And sometimes they just want to talk to people because they're lonely. They've lost their spouses, their kids are grown, and people aren't around. And I mean, just even giving them a conversation when they come in, like, you can just tell, like, you made their whole day. And I love that about the job. You have to realize everybody's different, and I would say the difficult parts is losing people too, because, you do have people that come in and then all of a sudden you hear that they passed or, something has happened to them. Also, you get a lot of people that might not be very happy. So, taking them in there and they're not happy. I mean, it's hard not to take on other people's emotions, especially when they're telling you their stories and what's going on. So you can try to give them the best care that you can. And, some days can be amazing. And some days one patient can throw you off your game the whole day and you just have to act like it didn't. But you know what I mean? Like you take a lot home with you. It's definitely, you have to manage it.
Thank you for watching and listening to this episode of the Joust About Careers podcast. I hope you learned valuable information from this career story, and to be sure you don't miss upcoming episodes, please click subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform so you'll know when the next episode is released. Thank you for watching, and as always, this is the place to go to learn just about careers.